What's up, everybody? Hopefully, I'm live here. I thought I'd do kind of an impromptu stream today. I haven't been as active the last couple weeks. We'll give some channel updates here in just a second. I don't know how many people are going to hop in because it was so last minute that I was like, I'm just going to stream for a little bit. But I figured today we'd talk a little bit of the Haikyuu film, especially if you're, watching this, on rewatch. Yeah, I want to kind of talk a little bit about that and just kind of my thoughts now that the film's been out a little bit. I'm working on a video that should be out not too long from now on the production of the Haikyuu film. And so I thought this would be a good place just to get I feel like I'm close with the end of the script, but not 100%. So I kind of wanted to just talk through some of my thoughts and see if any of y'all had any kind of different perspective on it. But I also want to give a big channel update because I think there's a lot of people on YouTube who probably haven't followed me on Twitter, who haven't seen all the copyright issues that the channel had over the last week. What's up, Ian? How's it going? Are you enjoying this Sunday, or I guess afternoon at this point? Yeah, how are you doing? And yeah, this stream won't be super long because I have engagement a little bit later today, but I just wanted to hop on and talk for a little bit. So first, let's get the channel update out of the way real quick, and then we can just dive into all Haikyuu movie thoughts. So basically, the channel had received a third copyright strike kind of out of nowhere last Monday. And so Tuesday was kind of a panic a little bit of the channel seemingly about to be gone. I had kind of, I didn't think there was any issues with the videos, like they were under fair use, but if you follow AnyTube for any amount of time, you'll know that, this is a really common thing that happens. And so I posted on Twitter about it and kind of let my patrons know, and everyone was super supportive. And hopefully the process isn't done yet, but I now have access to my channel again, but a couple of those copyright strikes have been forwarded, so hopefully in the next week they'll be dissolved and I won't have to worry about it anymore. So yeah, we'll see. So it's not 100% over yet, but I think tentatively, the channel's good to go, and those strikes should all be reversed, by the beginning of December. And so I'm not going to post any video essays until they're done because I just don't want to risk having another strike come out of nowhere and actually put the channel at risk when I think it's going to be put to bed soon. So I'm, decided to stream here today. I still probably will post a couple of shorts just to kind of, stay in the algorithm's good graces. But thank you all to, anyone who helped, retweet or anything to kind of get things going. So I do think it made a difference, especially if it had gotten rejected again, like the fact that I had a bunch of people who were backing me being like, no, this is fair use, like YouTube, what's going on? So that was just kind of a random situation that happened. Copyright claims, there's such a big gap of Japanese companies that don't have fair use laws, but these are, I'm US based and we have fair use laws here. And that's how, we're getting all the footage and everything is through those American licensed companies. So this is kind of a whole thing that we went through. So if there's been a lack of posts, that's why. Glad you're doing good, Ian. Thank you for the love on the videos. Glad you enjoy it. Yeah, hope you keep enjoying the videos. And App, good to see you. Yeah, thank you for the nice words. All the patrons are so supportive and everything. And so yeah, anyways, it was kind of a stressful last week. We're not out of it 100% yet, but so videos will probably be up, or another video essay, which will be on the Haikyuu movie, for patrons, it'll be up probably a week early instead of the kind of 18 hours that it normally is. Or I guess for the highest tier of patron, although I might open it up for everyone just because after that first day, so they have it. But kind of end of this month, video essays will be coming back up, but you still might see a few shorts. But yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about the Haikyuu film now that it's been released. And I've watched it like 2 times again since, and obviously been, working on a video on it. Kind of want to get everyone's thoughts months removed from the film and just kind of give a discussion about kind of where I land on the quality and what I hope for the future of the Haikyuu films. And so if you have any thoughts on it and, any questions generally, just throw them in the chat. I don't imagine the stream will probably surpass an hour. Like it'll be a little bit shorter, maybe than some of my other Haikyuu ones. And so if there's a lot to talk about, I might come back and talk about the Haikyuu film even more. But yeah, so I've kind of come to this realization. I'll talk about this in the video, and that I'm working on the kind of the thesis behind it is that I really do think that the Haikyuu film is kind of fundamentally different than the match in the manga, but not necessarily that being a bad thing. And oh, also, if the stream's having any issues quality wise, like if things aren't clear, like it looks clear on my end, but the last stream I did, like impromptu for reaching 20K, was not like in focus the whole time. And so if that's the case, let me know and I can kind of play with the settings because it's so funky sometimes live streaming. Is there a possibility for a season like Demon Slayer? I'm not sure, right? Because I only watched the Demon Slayer movie. I didn't go back and rewatch those episodes, but to my understanding is because I know they released, especially Mugen Train, I believe is the one they did this with. I think it's been a little different for them like releasing other episodes or re-releasing, but it's like they did a film and then they added a little bit of content to fill in some of the gaps. But I think overall, I hope that happens, but I think it's kind of unlikely because I think the film, because they were constrained, I think the filmmakers made the choice to change the core of the film, where the match is in the manga, this kind of, while the core is still Hinata versus Kenma, it's this wider view of this rivalry and how all the characters affect each other. And the film, the director and the staff at Production IG, when they were forced to make the film, or I think we can definitely critique the thought process to getting us there, but once they had that dilemma of, we have to put this into a film and we don't have enough time necessarily to adapt all the emotional moments, they made the choice to focus solely on the relationship between Kenma and Hinata and really dial in on that. And so I think adding scenes in, like there's a lot of choices that are made that I don't think is necessarily like you just plug in these other scenes, because they fundamentally change the experience. And again, not necessarily in a bad way, I think. But yeah, I'll never forgive Production IG for not pulling in the character development of Nishinoya. Yeah, like Nishinoya's loss, Yaku, Kageyama, I think those are mainly the three. You also get a couple Asahi moments, are the big ones that are missing here outside of the old coaches. And it's definitely disappointing. Like, I think from the standpoint, and I think we knew this when the films were announced, but we just knew that there were going to be things cut. And it's kind of like a grieving process of like the adaptation is not going to be the same story that the manga was. It is going to change it and focus on these other things. Okay, image looks good. All right, if it doesn't, let me know. So because we don't have the same issue as last time. Demon Slayer season released exactly a year after the movie. Well, I mean, it would be awesome if they did that, and that would be in the upcoming months. I know it's been popular enough that there's been no official sources, and I don't know if this is people just hoping, but because I think Haikyuu fans' frustration with so much material getting cut, I do think the studios noticed, and I think they know that they could make a season and it could be super profitable. So it would be awesome if they added those scenes back in, like even if they made choices that would make it kind of difficult, like I still hope they try to do it, or maybe that was the intention. The movie had really good pacing and loved the Kuro and Kenma moments. Totally agree. Like I think the moments that they nail, like they do just a phenomenal job with it. And so, yeah, do I think the movie was overall good? I do. And I think it's just when you come at it in terms of a little bit different than the adaptation, and trying to do something a bit different than the original source material, I think you see a lot of really incredible work that the staff did. Like, not only does the animation look great, but I think it's the most in control from the direction of the match that any Haikyuu match ever has been, even Shiratorizawa's, which I think is probably the peak of the anime so far, in terms of adaptation elevating the material. And so I think the choice to make Kenma and the main character and really hone in on his relationship with Hinata does actually have some benefits. And I also think they're really, really going, they're really, really looking at, focusing on their relationship and the feeling of a volleyball match. And I think they did that really well. So I think, it's a compromise of a film, like, no doubt about it, because we didn't get all the material that would have been required for, 12 episodes. But what we do get, I think, is a satisfying experience. It's just a different experience than you get from reading the manga. And yeah, it is sad to think about how many anime watchers are missing out. And I think we just have to push them to the manga. Like, not necessarily say, you know, hey, your experience was so much worse because you watched the anime, because I think there's a lot of great stuff there. But to say, like, there's a lot of character focused moments in the manga that are missed. And I think, one of the reasons we love Haikyuu is because the cast is so well nuanced and so vast and amazing. And that is one of the things you lose in this movie, because you just cut around the edges, especially like those characters I mentioned earlier: Kageyama, Yaku, Nishinoya, um, Asahi. They all have a couple of moments that are missing. Um, but then at the same time, another major theme of the story, and something that I think this film does so well and elevates, I think, almost any of the source material, is that to highlight the fact that volleyball is an interesting and fun sport, and it highlights the velocity, in a way, of the sport, in a way that manga can't at all, because of the medium it's in. And I think the movie does a great job at showing how amazing volleyball is and the kind of flow of a match. And so I think there are some things that are done that are really, really fantastic. And I think the Kenma POV and the direction that led to that moment hitting as hard as it does is so good, and is different than how it was handled in the manga, like, obviously a little bit, because you're just talking about, cutting to different pages, versus here actually going into Kenma's POV. Like, it was an experience that, of being in an athlete's shoes, that I've never really gotten in this anime so far, even though they do it at moments, which is cutting into POVs, but never like they did with Kenma, and honestly throughout the entirety of this match. There's so many moments, specifically, like, if you look at the first rally, where the direction and the camera work is so specific and nuanced, I think, where you cut and you don't realize that you're actually in one of the players' POVs, but the ball, you kind of follow the ball as it is, and then you cut back and you realize, oh, I was in this player's perspective. And it's just so seamless and so well done that it kind of elevates things that they had pioneered in other matches, I think, to a way that I think was really satisfying. So you do lose some of those extra character moments, but you get some direction and elevated pace that you wouldn't get otherwise. Do you think they will cover the whole anime or just the last match for Krasno versus Kamomedai? That is the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? I'm hopeful. Like, I think the most hopeful thing that could happen for Haikyuu is that we get OVAs. That's not like um, you know, too impossible. OVAs for the Fuguro Dani versus Muji Nizaka match. They've done OVAs for Fuguro Dani Nekuma before nationals. Like, it's a precedent that they've set up already. So I think you really hope that happens. And then a film for the Kamomedai match, and a film for the post time skip material. Because if we get just a film with a Kamomedai match, but we do have the Fuguro Dani stuff in like a 4-episode OVA, they probably can get pretty darn close. I mean, I'm worried that they'll cut Asahi more than I would want them to, because you kind of would get this double, feature of films that's Hinata versus Kenma, Hinata versus Hoshiumi that I think would work pretty well in terms of kind of back-to-back films, but that does risk Asahi losing his moments, which are some of my favorite moments in the entire series. But the other side of that is that they still left in Kuro and Suki with a lot of moments there. So I'm hopeful. And man, would the Komomedai match, if done properly and given time, be so good. But the other thing that you think about with the Nekoma film is that, they could have made it 2 hours and fit in everything, probably. Right? Like, so that's the other thing. But they didn't think the cost was worth it. And maybe they will now that it's done so well financially. The one thing that I'm really happy about and see nobody talking about is they did my boy Lev some awesome justice. Yeah, they did actually. He is one of the characters that in the manga, I remember being like, I feel like he just doesn't leave an impact. But he does in the film. He really is a standout. You just like see the quality of him. And so, yeah, I totally agree. Upon a reread, most of the material cut was from set 1 and 2, and set 3 was adapted to its entirety. Yeah, and even honestly, it's mainly set 2 because set 1 they rearrange a lot of things in actually a pretty clever way. One of the things that they flip is the introduction of Nekuma using a synchronized attack. They actually make that happen a little bit sooner. So it's like when you start the match, it's like, okay, both teams, here's some new tricks. Here's where they've come. Now let's get into the match. I actually thought that pacing works well. Where in the manga, that moment where Nekoma does a synchronized attack is a little bit later on. And so yeah, I think that is I think there is some clever rearranging that's going on or things that they kind of combined, but set 2, you really feel it. And, but the big thing that is missing from set 3 is Nishinoya's, his foot receive, and you're also missing Kageyama pointing at Asahi, which is such a big moment. Like both of those are, really connected to the series and development, and they're just gone because they are so focused on Hinata and Kenma. But man, does the stuff with them work? I think. What was the whole idea behind Yaku and Nishinoya in the manga? At least compared to Kuro and Tsukishima and Hinata and Kenma, the Libero matchup was less built up from previous seasons. Yeah, I think that is true. Like they are, and those two pairings, I still think in the match in the manga are more focused on, but there is just a lot of Yaku moments where, and I think it's more that he is the center of the team, and that you kind of realize it in this match where something that the film cuts out is Kageyama is such a better player than everyone on Karasuno, and they talk about it a lot in the manga of how dominant he's become, and Yaku is that player for Nekoma. He is the center of that defense. Great moment where he scares Asahi off from hitting a spike, and Bokudo comments on it. That's cut from the manga or from the anime. And so it's this defensive team, and you see Yaku's actually really the one who's doing so much of the work, and then Nishinoya reflects him because it's this kind of defensive battle that Nishinoya gets left out on. So I think there's just some little payoffs. Like it's not huge moments, but especially for the people, like they're huge for those characters, but in terms of the amount of screen time or page time, it's not a huge percentage necessarily. But if for Haikyuu is such a series that there's so many characters that could be people's favorites. If your favorite character is Nishinoya, like you probably hate this film because his moment was cut. And if you really like Yaku, it's really frustrating, where if you really haven't connected with some of those side characters, you might not notice it as much. Do you think the next movie will be understandable after all the bits and pieces they missed? I think so. Like, I don't think they missed enough that it changes. I do think with Asahi's waterfall, that he performs in this match, like there's just a few little moments, but I really don't think that there's too much that will be missed because a lot of this setup is from a lot of time, beyond. I think some of the Kageyama stuff maybe, but not necessarily. Yeah, not. And I guess here's just rephrase the question. Yeah, I don't think so. I think it will be understandable for anime onlys, and the anime only experience is really interesting. I think this is something that happens a lot in conversations about um, some of these adaptations that happen. I think it happened a lot when just like another big property that was adapted recently was Dune, and I'm like a huge Dune fan and everything, and a lot of book readers or people who read the source material project their experience or onto people who haven't experienced the source material, and often to a point where it's a little overboard, where they're like, well, there's no way you would have gotten this or you wouldn't have experienced it like this, and not seeing that there's new connections being made by the filmmakers, and that even though you lost something, like the anime onlys might not think that way. And I think from my experience with a handful of people close to me who are anime onlys, they really enjoyed the film. Like it wasn't necessarily their favorite match. A lot of people still think Inarazaki's better, but that was the case in the manga too. So I do think the anime only experience is like pretty decent with the film, from my understanding. If there's any anime onlys, let me know. Maybe they could do a mini series on the time skip. I mean, yeah, that would be incredible. I really hope we get to see it. There's like almost 80 chapters, which would make a perfect 25 episode season. Yeah, I mean, if they did turn it into a season, it would be phenomenal. Like there's definitely enough time to do, a couple episodes of Fukurodani, 9 episodes of the Kamomedai match or something, and then the time skip. I just, I don't know. I feel like they made a lot of money off this film. And so the biggest we can hope for is an extra film or like longer run time on the film, an hour 20. I was really hoping it'd at least be like an hour 40. Yeah, the movie not being 2 hours was crazy to me. Had it been 2 hours, we definitely could have gotten a huge chunk of the characterizations that were missed. Yeah, I definitely agree. And obviously, animation's so expensive to make. And, there was some things that potentially people were worried about. Like I remember when this first got announced, I can't remember who it was on Twitter, but someone was like, well, obviously the studios aren't going to be like caring as much about this because the manga ended years ago. And it's so funny that commercially it's been so successful because people adore Haikyuu, and Haikyuu manga sales are still so high. But I wonder if there was some of that thinking behind the studio that like, well, it's not currently serializing. Like, do we think people are actually going to turn up for this? So let's approach the film by cutting, the best way we can in about 100, an hour and 20 minutes. It would have been interesting to see how they would have approached it. I do think one thing that is missing, and I'm sad it's missing, but it actually makes a lot of sense, is the backstory from old coach Yukai and Nekomata. Like, obviously it's a bummer that we don't get to see that backstory, because that backstory is an emotional backbone for the handshake at the end. But I think the theme that the coaches, this match isn't for them, that it's the players, and the players make of it what they will, actually gets hit home a little bit harder when you don't have that backstory to start it, and it's Kenma and Hinata flashback that starts it. I think that idea actually works a little bit better in the anime. If they took a whole movie to cover one match, imagine them trying to cover Kamomedai, and yeah, but it's not possible. Like, it's just not possible, is it? Like, the more, like we've been thinking about this, like ever since the announcement, I feel like it's, like we've just like come to terms with the fact that it's going to be a lot of the extra characterizations just going to be missing. And so we can just hope that they decide to make more material. They also had Hinata hit the boom jump spike right away, as opposed to missing it. Missed the humor, but still worked well. Yeah, that's an interesting moment that I've definitely talked about, or we'll talk about a little bit in the video that I have coming out on this match. And I do think it makes sense because it misses the humor, but the thing about manga and that moment in the manga is that it has humor, but it also has the impact. And I think if you make him miss that moment in the anime, like if he, slightly misses the hit and then he does it the second time, like in the source material, I don't think you'd get the impact of the moment. So I actually think that's a good choice, and even though you miss the humor, it's the fact that the manga ends him breaking free and Kageyama setting him the ball as the end of the chapter. And so when you get to that end of the chapter, it's like the moment's there and it's complete. And it's like just you kind of get to sit with it and be like, okay, the fact that he did this at all, um, and Kageyama was even willing to do this, um, is everything. And it is so that moment hits with such impact because you get to sit with it. And the anime and the pacing of it, I don't think you could do it as well because if he immediately you don't get to stop and have a sit with that moment. Like the whole moment is him scoring. And so I think I totally understand why they made that change. I think that would have been a change they made potentially even if they had more time because I think that hits it shows kind of little changes like that you have to make from anime to manga, and I think it works well. Like I think it would have been too humorous and not triumphant enough for how triumphant that moment is, where in the manga, because of the medium, Furudate is able to do both perfectly. I don't mind them making a movie because Neko match is probably the most volleyball action focused match. If only it was longer. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what a lot of us agree on. Like, I wish it was longer, but I do think there's a lot of choices that they made throughout. Like, I think like 3 rallies in here are probably the 3 best rallies production wise the anime's done, even though there is great production in like the Shiratorizawa match's final point. There is great production in the final point against Inarizaki and of course Abujosai, but I think like the opening one, the one with Kuro's like big receive, that's like a trailer shot, and then the final is just like so good, and they're all so well connected through perspective, and it pushes beyond like you think of shots like the volleyball hitting through Kita's eye in the Inarizaki match, and it's like this match takes that kind of a perspective way further, and it's so awesome. So there is like so much great production here. It's just like time constraints, right? The fact that it's taken so long for a second movie to be announced makes me think they want to do a third one. Yeah, I mean, there's been like whispers, but like nothing that can be confirmed or anything of people, mentioning that maybe they've realized that they need to that people will show up for more content, and so I think that's important here. They could end up making the second movie on a cliffhanger with "What Will You Become Tomorrow?" Then we see Hinata panel. Yeah, I mean, could you imagine that ending? Like, oh, yeah. I wonder how they would end it if so. Say they only adapt Kamo Medai versus Crossno, and I guess minor spoilers here if you haven't read the manga, you might want to peace out for a second. But I think that's an interesting spot that they could end it. They could end it with Brazil, but maybe they do What Will You Become Tomorrow, and then cut and then go to credits and then have a little after scene, with kind of the end of I think it's really important to have them eating food, right? Because that is such a great callback to Eat and Grow Stronger scene. And like, imagine them using the same music from Eat and Grow Stronger. Like, oh my God, like I'll be tearing up. So I wonder if that is where it will kind of end. And then maybe post credit, we would get Brazil. And I think that would be, I mean, what an experience. Like that match is my favorite match in all of sports anime. It is my favorite match in Haikyuu. And so if they do it justice like that, like, man, be so good. Like, if they get the Fukurodani match in OVAs and they give us like an hour and a half for the Kamo Medai match, because I'm fairly certain the Kamo Medai match is shorter because it's really, like it obviously the time gets so cut up, but like yeah, imagining the production handling all the forest shots and like the idea of the vines stretching out and the difficulty of Asahi, and just like imagining the sound design of Asahi hitting some of these spikes for his big moments be so good. Like I just hope they have enough time and are able to give it the attention to detail that they have for this film. But animation just takes so much longer than I think fans, we always want it to come out so much quicker. Just think about Arcane and how many years it's taken for season 2 to come out, and how long it took, and how much more money they're putting into that than the Haikyuu has ever gotten or ever will get. I won't forgive them if they cut Hinata's beach training arc. Oh yeah, Oh my gosh, so much, yeah, like, you cannot do the time skip and have it hit without the training arc. The training arc is so fundamental to everything. You know, in one of my videos, I think it was the video that, currently got a copyright strike, but should be coming back on the MSBY Adler match. I think I didn't fully express my kind of thoughts about the Brazil arc fully, because I got like one or two comments of people being like, "You don't understand the Brazil arc. Like, how do you even understand this manga?" Because I had said something like when I first came across it, I was like frustrated, like, why is it here? Like, and I think like that's the purpose of it, and that in hindsight, it's like obviously one of the greatest pieces of the entire story. Um, and so fundamental after Kamo Medai and then for making the post time skip match work. But in the video, I don't think I fully clarified that. That was just like my initial feelings when first reading it, and like not how I feel about it. And I just think it's like a way maybe a lot of people have felt, which is like, I, maybe wanted something different right here than what I'm getting. At least that's how I felt, because the disappointment from the Kamo Meta match is just so large that you're just like in Brazil all of a sudden with none of the characters you like except for like two, and so it's kind of, for me it was like a little frustrating the first time I watched it, but again it's critical to the story, and so is the Fukurudani Mujinazaka match. I think even more critical than maybe some of the characterization that was lost. I mean, obviously, like that's a huge bummer, and we will still continue to point anime fans in the direction of the manga just so they can have that experience. Um, but but if they lose, like how much can you erode off the edges of the story before it's fundamentally different by the end of it? Like I think this match plays out differently, but it does give us some great things about, I've never, even more so than the Slam Dunk movie, I think the Haikyuu movie feels like a match. With the Slam Dunk movie, so much focused on the drama of the characters, and still brilliant, of course. Where Haikyuu, like its entire story, is about volleyball, and it does it better than any piece of media I've experienced on focusing on sport and the philosophy of sport. And here they bring you into the feeling of sport in a way that's just like unmatched. So, but it's like how many times can you get away with that and lose the characters? Then you lose us. So they really have to deliver, I think, more time for, if we do get a couple OVA episodes and then 2 films, I think people will look back a little more kindly on the Nekoma film and see the good things that were done there. If they continue to take off the edges and we lose big moments, then people rightly be really frustrated, I think. It's like the Brazil training arc is the stage for the MSBY versus Adler's match to stand on. 100%, it's a huge foundation that totally recontextualizes the entire story, which is why I think the first time I came to the material, I was just like a little unsure about it, because it's relaying foundation after, the story takes a direction that you never thought it was going to go in, but it of course always was headed the way it was. Man, seeing how the production was during the Nekoma match, the Adlers versus Jackler match would be so amazing, even more intense. I want it so bad. Yeah, that's actually a huge benefit of that match. The intensity that is brought to this film. And it's like that's the one thing that's kind of missing, I think, from the manga, is like the tension isn't necessarily there in the same way. But man, would they be able to capture that match so well. And like, but again, like you have to be willing to give that match works because it pays off every single character, and it has such great cuts to so many characters. You have to be willing, I think, you have to be willing to give those small moments to us. And so I don't think it's not nearly as long, right? Like that whole thing is not nearly as long as the Nekoma match. I guess how many chapters is it from Brazil to the end? Is it like 40 chapters or something? And then how long's the Nekoma match? But really, if you give us the small moments, it's going to be so good. And it's like a couple OVA, 2 movies. I think we can, anime fans can be satisfied. Kamo Medai match deserves its own season. It's like 40 chapters, like Shiro Torizawa, in my opinion, has more emotional weight than any of the other matches. I mean, I totally agree it's the best match. I can't remember exactly if that's correct on it does have the same chapter length, because for some reason I was thinking it was a little bit shorter than like the Nekoma match and stuff, but I could be wrong. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's possible to do in a film. It's not possible if you're trying to throw on the Fukuro Dani match or if you're trying to throw on the post time skip material. Um, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like a if they give it an hour and 40 minutes, I think just to the Kamo Medai match, I do think they would get pretty darn close to giving us a pretty great adaptation. Okay, Nekoma's 35 chapters, MSBY is 22, and is Kamo Medai exactly 40? Because if it is, then yeah, like yeah, then they need like 2 hours. Um, yeah, and that Nekoma match is like pretty dense too, and so is Kamo Medai. Um, you know, and like, but I also just imagine like in the theater with the Kamo Medai match, like what an experience that would be. Like I am a big proponent of theater experiences above watching something at home. Like all of a lot of my favorite film experiences are feeling the energy of the audience, like when you get a big audience to something. um and thinking about the Kamo Medai match, if done, like let's just assume, just like for the sake of this quick conversation, that it's like done pretty well, so like 2 hours totally like actually done well. Obviously they're going to cut a little bit, but like none of the big moments. Like it will be one of the greatest experiences of my life, like if they're able to do it justice. And in a cinema, it's just like it would be so good. um I can't even imagine an experience that would even come close to it, honestly. We'll cry like a baby when Takeda's speech happens, no matter what. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, same here. There's so many moments. I mean, like I cannot read the manga without getting emotional. And I've read the Kamo Medai match so many times for so many different like videos and like moments that I'm looking at because it's so pivotal. Um, and like Washijo's speech, Asahi, the final, Takeda, like, and then all of them. It's just like I get emotional just thinking about it, and so yeah, I desperately hope uh, the anime is able to do it justice, and it would be cool if it's up to the quality of adaptation that so many of the moments in the Nekoma match were. Um, and Hoshiyumi getting so many great moments, and like I can't wait for one thing that I did find myself, and I wonder if y'all were the same way, is line delivery being different than the English translated, right? So like, and I watched both sub and dub of it, and I definitely prefer the sub for at least the film. Um, of course, mainly a sub person, anyways. But man, so many of the lines are like slightly different, and I'm like, oh, I just have the panels ingrained in my head of like, Kema saying, "Stay interesting, K," and like in both the adaptations, he says something different, and I'm like, this is not as good. Or young coach Yukai saying, "Stay bold out there," you know, uh, versus like I know in the dub, because I work in the dub a little bit, so it's like I don't have subtitles um, for like editing videos and stuff. Uh, it's like he's like, "Have some courage." And I'm like, "Stay bold just hits better. Like, what are we doing here?" And so I don't know if you all felt that way, but I definitely did, and I know I will for the Combo Bat match, because like the tomorrow monologue is the monologue that I just like say it in my head all the time. Like it just always is popping in my mind. So good. Um, but yeah, I mean, overall, like I think back to the Nekoma film. Um, so yeah, I am working on a video. If you weren't here at the beginning of the stream, my next video that will be out once these copyright issues are resolved, hopefully next week, is going to be focused on trying to look into the production and to see how they came to the decisions that they made. And my kind of thesis is that I do think it's a fundamentally different story than what is in the manga, but it's still a very good story and still a very good film. It's just that there's going to be a grieving process for all the fans who love the manga, that instead of having this wide view of characters, it's a more focused view on the experience of playing volleyball and kind of the nuances of a very specific rivalry with a little bit of character flavor, versus kind of having this more expansive feel that the manga has. So that's kind of the thesis of where I've landed on the film after watching it about 5 or 6 times. So right, like I still prefer the manga to the film. I think I prefer the manga to the anime overall, but it's pretty darn close. And there's some amazing things, I think, especially with the intention of the production and how it flips with different perspectives. And there's so many cool shots of you're in someone's perspective and you don't realize it, and then the play happens and you learn whose perspective you were in. And then there's sometimes where a player might mess up, and they, instead of putting you in their perspective, they put you slightly off. So you kind of, it's like when players make a good play, you're in sync with them, and when the camera's not in sync with them, it like leads you to see that they've messed up. And so there's some really cool stuff direction wise, I think. I unfortunately had to watch the dub in theater first due to the time, but watched the sub later and it was way better, which I knew it would be, but really throws you off. I also, because of the time, saw the dub first, and I actually initially watched the show in dub. Like, sometimes when I didn't expect when I first watched Haikyuu that it would turn into like my favorite series ever. And so like sometimes I'll throw on dub because it's just like easier to watch while you're eating food and stuff. And, like you just like don't miss things with subtitles. And, I watch both, and I'm not someone who I think it's a unique thing about animation is that you can have it in the language and it, feels like it flow, your native language, and it feels like it flows pretty well. But of course, like typically the original is going to be more closer to the intention of the staff, and so things like that. But yeah, there's definitely like some of the bigger moments are just like the line delivery is just like not as good in the anime. My bad, Kamometa is 32 chapters. Okay, but still actually a bit longer than I was thinking. I was thinking if Nekoma's 35, I was thinking like more like 28. So pretty good. Like a little bit shorter, but so that's why I feel like an hour 40, like they could probably get pretty darn close to getting that. The IQ dub has always been a meh one for me. Like I think for high schoolers, it does the humor very well, but the emotional moments, it lacks a lot. Yeah, I agree. Like I think some of the, like sometimes I'll watch those, like the dub being unhinged, like compilations, because they just kind of crack me up a little bit. But yeah, like I agree. I've actually started to watch the sub a lot more, or started to, when I really started doing a lot of these videos. And yeah, like there's some dubs that I'll always watch, like, Cowboy Bebop, Full Metal Alchemist, especially ones I grew up with. But Haikyuu, I really feel like I can watch either. But for first time viewing of the film, the next one I'll probably be doing sub if I can help it. So yeah, I kind of agree on the emotional moments. There's a few voice actors, like I think Bokudo's so much better in the sub, so much better. When did you watch Haikyuu for the first time? I actually came to it pretty late. I first watched it in 2020, so it was in lockdown. I had, there's so many creators that were kind of on a similar plane as me that had watched it, but I was always, of the ilk of like, I never really tried sports anime outside of Prince of Tennis growing up. And so during COVID, during lockdown, decided to watch it and just like became hooked. And so I made a few videos on it initially in the year like 2020 to 2021. And eventually an Oikawa video popped off. And so my Haikyuu fan, like, following, I guess, on here started to grow a little bit. And so like those videos started doing like pretty good. And then at the start of this year, when the Kamometa match blew up, like I feel like I've never ran out of things to say about Haikyuu. I never necessarily envisioned the channel being like, at least for this year, it's been almost like a Haikyuu video every other video. Like that's a little more Haikyuu than I ever had thought I would make, but it's like I just love talking about the series so much, and obviously it gets the most views for me consistently. But this year really has been like my Haikyuu analysis year. But yeah, 2020. So I'm pretty late to it. Like I mean, obviously that was like 4 years ago, but or over 4 years ago. But so many people were watching it. You know, I came to it. I think I caught up when the second core of season 4 was just starting to air. So I watched all of the second core of season 4, but all of the other stuff had been released already, which is like, you know, so crazy. If they do MSBY match, I could see them doing it like the Slam Dunk movie where they focus on one character, either Hinata or Kakiyama. Yeah, I think that's I think that's would be the case. I think if you have the Brazil, and then it just makes sense to be super Hinata focused. You know, the Slam Dunk match is cool because it's like a different perspective on it, and it's similar to the Nekoma match that makes Kenma it really makes him the main character in there. And I think that's another reason why they don't show the coaches flashback, because they really want to keep all of the lengthy flashbacks of things we haven't seen before to Kenma and Kuro specifically. And so that's why they removed that. So it really feels like this is Kenma's movie, and you really get the sense of how they structure set 1. It ends with 3 straight kind of Kenma focused moments, and then set 2 they just really cut the fluff out to keep Kenma locking Hinata up. And then, you know, there's a few moments where things, right, at the beginning of set 1 you get some Suki, and then set 3 you get some stuff till it comes back to Kenma. But I think that's how they were kind of, this POV shot works so well because they really focused in on Kenma as the center of the film. Haikyuu is the perfect series. So many themes and things to talk about, and very little negativity or baggage in the fandom. Like you get that, yeah, you get that with a lot of series anymore, or you don't. Yeah, Haikyuu is great. Like I just never run out of things to say about it. I feel like so much nuance, so much fun, and yeah, it's really easy to make videos that end up being pretty positive, you know, like the whole the thesis, right, of my channel is basically just trying to use my literature degree and my love of anime and video editing to help people dive into different readings of anime and kind of give it that kind of same quality that we easily give, you know, like traditional literature and now cinema. I think a lot of people do. But Haikyuu, it's really easy to make readings that are, you know, hopefully positive for the viewers, or for my viewers. And I think a lot of people who make Haikyuu content, it's that way. It's just such a infectiously positive series. Like you watch it and you just feel inspired, or, you know, it feels like it can help you through difficult moments, and there's so much stuff to be found within it, I feel like I never run out of things to say. And it, you know, makes it easier because it's so easy for me to think about the series, and I don't have to, you know, like everything feels so positive. And it's, you know, makes the comment section so nice of all the Haikyuu videos and things like that, where, you know, it's a little bit different. Like my last video that I was able to release was on Gon and, you know, his kind of self destruction. And you know, it's a different kind of vibe when you're talking about, you know, a video like that, even though that video is a positive outlook on Gon and kind of this difficulty that he has had with his worldview being so limiting. And it kind of sent him into this place of self-harm. And so, yeah, if you guys haven't checked out that video, you should, because I feel like Gon is, you know, weirdly misunderstood because the fandom has really kind of pegged him as a monster, even though he's a 12-year-old boy. You know, but yeah, Haikyuu, super uplifting series. And so it's been really fun to talk about so much this year. Yeah, so I guess I probably only got a couple more minutes here of the stream. So if you guys have any other questions or anything, like throw them out there. And yeah, so those are kind of the final thoughts of an official video that I think will be out soon, that I think y'all will really enjoy, really trying to get into the thought process behind a lot of the production. So be on the lookout for that, and I think you guys will find some value out of that video. Will you make more Blue Box videos in the future? Yes, I will. I have a video that I'm scripting. It'll probably come out in December. It was supposed to come out earlier, but again, the copyright issues, which is, I think it's the title, working title right now is The Addictive Storytelling of 2024's Anime of the Year, Blue Box. And so a video about kind of how it handles romance tropes and specifically the anime adaptation to make such an addictive experience. So, and then kind of diving into some of the themes of the story as well. You know, that of course I touched on a little bit in my previous Blue Box video, but it is my anime of the year, I think. Although I do have another banger video, like I think the two best anime of the year, not kind of the Haikyuu film, of course, is Blue Box and Dawn to Dawn. And I don't know how to package this video, so I'll say this and then I'll get back to a couple questions, because if you have an idea for how to package it, like, let me know. But my Dawn to Dawn analysis is on the absurdity of its storytelling, but I'm utilizing another piece of art, or the idea is to utilize another piece of art to explain and kind of interrogate this perspective on it. And I'm using Chromacopia, which is Tyler the Creator's newest album, which is another thing I'm obsessed with. They both came out around the same time. I can't stop thinking about them. I don't really know how to frame this like weird comparison that I've made, but I feel like it's going to be a really interesting video if like people actually click on it, which is kind of using the structure of that album, of Chromacopia, and the honesty that is kind of within the lyrics of Tyler's newest album and the vibe and atmosphere, and apply it to Dawn and the absurdity and kind of the readings of humanity that come out from that. And so I feel like it'll be a really fun video. I'm really excited to edit it, and it'll be kind of a little bit different than other things, but I'm not really sure exactly what I'm going to title it or how to thumbnail it, because it's so different than like things probably my normal audience is into. But I feel like the idea is that you don't need to really have listened to one or the other, watched or listened to one or the other, like that they, you know, the content of the thing should still get you to watch it or listen. So anyways, that's an upcoming video that I don't know how to package. So many Haikyuu quotes have got me through the day and through life. I'm so very grateful for it. And thank you for your videos. Always brilliant. Much appreciate your hard work. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I totally agree. There's so many amazing Haikyuu quotes that are just so brilliant. And yeah, so I'm glad you've gotten some value out of the videos. I really appreciate that, especially with how difficult of a week it's been on YouTube this past week. What character resembles you the most? I'd say Asahi. I don't know. I feel like self-confidence is an issue for me sometimes. I really identify with Asahi, I think. Thoughts on Blue Lock Season 2? I've barely watched any of it because I've just seen how bad the animation looks. I did have a Blue Lock idea for a video on the Itoshi brothers. Maybe I'll make it, maybe I won't. I don't know, because the anime's got me kind of bummed. Angela, very good to see you. One of the members of the channel, and really appreciate your support. It's cool to see you in here, of course, and all the live streams and in the Discord. PowerPoint Lock Season 2, like, yeah, my gosh, like, I cannot believe it. I mean, it looked like it was a little better this recent episode for the U20 match, but I don't know if it's good enough that I'm going to be making videos on it. Yeah, so yeah, U20 episodes are looking better for sure. Yeah, so I might tune into it because it is just a fun vibe. Like, I love soccer, and so, you know, always fun to hang out with it. And I do think Blue Lock's a really great story, and there's a lot to be talked about, even though it's kind of a unique perspective on sports. Yeah, Chromacopia is fire. Yeah, love Chromacopia. It's so good. If you guys don't know, my first video on the channel was on Tyler before I used to be like a general art focused, not as focused on anime. And yeah, the first video I ever made was after Flower Boy, and talking about Tyler's evolution. And it's like, if only I knew what his next 3 albums would be and how amazing they would be. It's so good. So yeah, I think it would be a really fun video, this kind of Dawn to Dawn Chromacopia crossover. There's so many great edits too of Darling Eye for Dawn to Dawn that like it kind of sparked this idea that maybe I can make a video, comparing two different mediums and seeing, what kind of ideas come out of it. Yes, hello again. Yeah, glad to be back streaming a little bit. I'll try to, be streaming as much as possible, coming up in the next few weeks. And I feel like hopefully once these copyright things are taken care of, uh, that there'll kind of be a blitz of video essays leading up to the end of the year. So really excited about that. Also, we will be doing another watch along soon. I am waiting just a little bit longer to officially announce it, but probably will soon. Or kind of discuss with my patrons kind of how many days a week we want to watch. I think it's going to be Aoashi, which I've never seen before. So super excited about that. I think that's probably it for me. Kind of a really short impromptu stream, but just kind of wanted to get back on here now that I can post things. Like for a few days, I thought I didn't have access to even post anything because of the strikes, but now I can do some stuff. Still going to hold back on video essays until the copyright strikes are totally dissolved. I'm not at risk of all of a sudden the channel going away, but I don't think we have too much to worry about now. But things aren't quite finished yet. So yeah, the first video back will be about Haikyuu. That'll probably be up for patrons. So if you, within the next couple of days, probably by Wednesday or Thursday of this week. So if you guys are interested in seeing it early before I post it to YouTube, because this one will be a lot earlier than normal, I'll put it up for all tiers, for patrons and for YouTube members, a bit earlier. So yeah, thanks again for watching the stream, everyone. Haikyuu movie. I'm excited to release that video on it. I wanted to kind of get my final thoughts out before I finalize the script and finish up editing on it. So yeah, thanks again, and hopefully I'll see you in another stream soon. And hopefully the streams won't be as impromptu moving forward. And hopefully I can find a schedule to get as many people in here. But it feels like we did pretty good for just random Haikyuu talking. So yeah, thanks again, and we'll see ya.